Well, a little bigger is maybe a little easier to dissect. Could be. I mean, depends on who you are. It might be helpful to do that. So I was just stunned by how massive they were. But anyway, they're huge. The one I happened to pull out of there yesterday was a little girl, so we're good to go for her. She's all ready for everybody to observe, should they need to observe. And everybody else is already in the trays, but I'm leaving them out there until I go back to when we start setting up lab, and then I'm going to drain any extra juice off of them because they are very juicy pigs. They're very juicy pigs.
Which Harry Potter show did you go to see? Because I went and saw.
You saw Cursed Child,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I did too. When they did it on tour, did they put a Dementor over your head in the crowd, or were they limited to the stage? I wondered how they were going to do that.
Didn't have any over the stage, or
Over the crowd.
they had them over the stage, not over.
Yeah, and in at the Lyric, because it's temporary rigging,
Yeah.
because they're touring. That's how I wondered how they do it. At the Lyric, they drop one dead over the orchestra section, and we were in the orchestra section, so the balcony was a couple rows behind us, but it was right above my head, and it was massive. And then my friend went a few weeks later, and I said, I'm not going to ruin the coolest part of the show for you, but based on where you're sitting, it's going to be really. She was like in the first row of the balcony, so it was probably like 10 feet from her. But the one that was over the crowd was probably 2 or 3 times the size of the ones on stage. It was ginormous and mind blowing. But yeah, it's a good show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did they do the time warp? Did it look like a time warp thing where like
Where
the distorted?
they-
Okay, my nerdy husband was flipped out. He was like, I don't know how they're doing that. So like during
Right? Because I went
we,
with some of my
it's
friends.
a scrim.
Yeah, well, he's pretty sure they have the normal stage and they have everything kind of set with projectors. So you
Yeah.
can change stuff.
Yeah, it's a scrim is like a screen that they use in theater, and it can change the way the light's refracting.
Yeah.
So that's how they were doing it, but it was still so unreal.
Yeah.
Like Jason, as soon as we got to intermission, Jason's Googling, like, how do they do the time warp thing and the cursed child? Because it was so wild. That was, I think, our favorite part of it. And every time it did it, he would, gosh, like, like it blew his mind every time. And then we saw the Stranger Things show the same weekend, and everybody had said that that was like real magic too. Like it was so incredible. The effects were incredible, and they were incredible. They were nothing compared to the Cursed Child. Cursed Child was way better. It was
And
awesome.
the final fight scene where they're like
Yeah.
going with fire.
Oh yeah.
I still have questions on
It was
how they're
wild.
doing that.
The whole bookshelf scene.
Yeah.
It was just all like ultimate illusion. That's like putting David Copperfield to shame. The whole like David Blaine, all those guys. It was like the whole bookshelf scene was like, where are they going? What's happening? People coming in and out of everywhere. It was awesome. All right, gang, let me get these people going. You good, Evan? You have a good weekend? Do anything fun? No. All right. So after class, it's going to take me a little while to get all your grading done because the assignments are a little longer this time that I have to grade, and I have to grade all the pigs after lab. But I also have to go back to my oral surgeon at 3:30 for a checkup, just a checkup, follow up on the tooth he pulled and everything. So it might be till tomorrow before you get all your grades. So just know that. All right. Okay. So we are doing birds and mammals today. And then in our lab, we have our piggies today. Is everybody doing the piggy, or is anybody doing the alternate? Doing the piggy? All right. Excellent. Does anybody know what this guy is? The meerkat. Aren't they cute? Looking around. They're very cute. There used to be a television show called Meerkat Manor. They literally just put like cameras around a big colony of meerkats and like gave them all personalities and talked about them. It was kind of cool. All right, so we're going to talk today about, come on, Q4 packets first. These are going to go home next week. You're going to get your Q4 packet. All right. And your homework assignments are about to become a little different. So I'm giving you a heads up, and we'll talk about it next week too. But here's your heads up. So Q4 has one homework assignment, one. And it is one long homework assignment broken into weekly chunks. So I'm not checking your homework every week. You have to be keeping up with it, or at the end of the quarter, you're going to be scrambling to do a giant project. Does that make sense? If you do a little bit every week, like you're instructed to do, which I'm not checking, I'm trusting you to do, you'll be fine. But if you wait until the end, it's going to be a scramble. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a life-size paper model body, your own body, but it's going to have all of your internal organs and structure. and you're going to build this out of paper. You're going to get a 7x3 piece of paper. And before you leave class next week, one of your classmates is going to trace your body on it. Okay. And then you're going to get a whole bunch of these outlines you're going to get a packet of them. Okay. And they're for you to color, cut out, and place on your paper model. And there are instructions inside to show you how to do it. It's not due until May 12th. So you have to keep up with it every week. You're going to get a little book that goes along with it. So it's going to be the big piece of paper model body and this booklet that you'll turn in. And in this booklet, you're going to write stuff in it that should kind of reflect your own class level and ability. So, for example, a good example for you guys might be for the digestive and excretory system, you would write under system, you'd write digestive, and then for your organ, this would be mouth, and you would say something like teeth mechanically break down food while saliva begins to chemically break down food. Notable structures and structural features, you'd say humans have specialized teeth, incisors bite, canines tear, molars grind, that kind of thing. Okay? You have to write a book. You just make sure I know that you know what you're doing. So entire assignments May 12th. Your model body will be graded as one test grade. Your booklet will be graded as one test grade. Okay, so you don't get individual homework assignments every week. You're going to get one test grade at the end for each of these two components. And you can't hand it in digitally, you have to bring it in person. Here's my pro tip for you. Instead of rolling it up and unrolling it every week to work on it, find a good, steady, sturdy place to tape it up so that you can just apply stuff to it as you need. My suggestion is you use the back of your closet door. So, just tape it, use masking tape and stick it on your closet door. So as you're working, you can just stick your body parts on it as you go. Because usually closet doors don't have furniture in front of them and things like that. So it's usually a good place to put something like this. Okay, good? Everybody understand? So you get that next week and we'll go over it again too. So your homework was about comparing agnathans and osteichthyes, right? And I'll be reading through all of those as soon as I get the opportunity to, since I have my appointment today. All right, so we're going to start with birds. Are we ready? What's that? Does anybody know? That's an emu. Aren't they cute? Little fuzzy-headed things. All right, so let's see. What are the defining characteristics of birds? What do you think of when you think of birds? What are defining characteristics? How can you tell it's a bird? What does it have? Wings. Yeah. Wings, feathers. What else? What else do birds have? Wings, feathers. What else? How do they eat? Beaks. There you go. Wings, feathers, beaks. Yeah. So, how many species of birds do you think there are? What would you guess? 100? 1,000? 100? 1,000? What's your guess? 5,000? Okay, Emerson's going to be closest. 10,000. There are 10,000 species of birds. Some are really, really tiny, such as the bee hummingbird. He's itty bitty, right? And he's only 2 inches tall, so about this big, tiny little guy. And then some are very large, like ostriches, which can be as tall as 9 feet. Their heads, really, really tall. Birds live on all 7 continents. So even Antarctica, what lives on Antarctica? There you go, penguins, right? All 7 continents. The most diversity among birds occurs in tropical regions. Birds belong to a class called aves. Many species migrate great distances each year. They are social creatures communicating with visual signals, calls, and songs, and they often participate in social behaviors like hunting. Can you think of a type of bird that migrates? Geese. Geese migrate? Yeah. What else? Anything else? Hummingbirds migrate. Did you know that? Our hummingbirds are not here in the winter. They're just starting to come back around this time of year. So you don't see them in the winter. It gets too cold for them. They go down south where it's a little warmer. Most birds in the United States are going to migrate south for the winter because it's warmer in the southern part of our country than it is up north, right? And then you can recognize a bird by its song, right? If you don't see a bird but you hear it and you know bird songs, you can recognize a bird by its song. There's one bird that copies everybody's song. Do you know what bird that is? We have them here. They're here all the time. So a mockingbird, have you heard of a mockingbird? A mockingbird will copy the songs of all the other birds, and he does it because all the girl mockingbirds think it's super hot. So the more songs he can sing, the more attractive he is to them. And I had one a couple years ago who could not get a girl to save his life, and he was very desperate. And they usually don't sing at night, but he sang like all through the night because he was trying real hard to get a girl. And he sang everybody's song all night long outside my window and kept me up. He was crazy. Most of the time, it's not what birds do. Huh? Eventually, he shut up. So I guess he found a girl or moved on. I don't know. It was crazy. So birds are defined by feathers. You all said that. Wings. You all said that. They have a lightweight, rigid skeleton. Their bones tend to be hollow. A lot of their bones are hollow because they're lighter. They have endothermic metabolism, right? These are endotherms. That means what? We did it last week. What's endotherm mean? What's ectotherm mean? Cold-blooded is what you thought of as cold-blooded is ectotherm. Does not produce its own metabolic heat, right? But an endotherm is going to produce its own body heat through metabolism, right? So they have a unique respiratory system. It's like a one-way valve situation. It's very different than how we breathe. And they have a beak, which we said. And they have oviparity. Do you remember what that word means? I mentioned it last week. So parity basically means how something is born. So oviparity means they lay eggs. Viviparity means you give birth to live young. So oviparous animals like some snakes, birds, turtles, these are all oviparous, right? They lay eggs. All right, so the physics of bird flight. How do they do it? So if you've done physical science with me, we've talked about some of this before. I don't think anybody here has done that yet. So gliding. Some birds are going to glide. They use their wings to glide through the air. They rely on simple physics. The bird wing is not flat, it's curved like this, right? So when it's curved like that, air moves over the top of the wing, has a longer distance to go than the air under the wing. But the same amount of air is moving over both the top and bottom of the wing. So the result is that the air moving over the top of the wing has less pressure because that volume of air is stretched out over a longer distance. And the air underneath has more pressure. And because of that, the less pressure here, it gets pushed up. And that phenomenon is called lift. It's also very similar to what we term as Bernoulli's principle in physics. Okay, so it's called lift and it pulls up from above. It's not pushing from the bottom, it's pulling from above. Some birds soar, and this is like hawks and osprey, and they use warmer air currents to move through the air because the sun's energy warms the earth and it warms air currents and it creates these big warm air currents. And that uplifting, the warm air rises, right? Because it is less dense than the cold air. The cold air is pushing the warm air up. Again, it's being pushed this time. And so those soaring birds are going to use that lift, that upward force. And sometimes people call this riding the thermals. They'll look up and go, oh, look at that bird is riding the thermals. Hawks will do it. They just kind of soar around up there on the warmer air currents. And then you have flapping, which you've probably seen a lot of. You've seen birds do flapping, right? So this is complicated, in which birds must work to create their own thrust or push to propel themselves through the air while working to minimize the drag on their wings, right, that their body creates. So to do this, they change the angle of their wings as they flap. They twist the front part, right? They're not just doing this. They're kind of pushing, almost like when you're swimming, right? It's the same idea, right? On the upstroke, they partially fold their wings to minimize drag, and on the downstroke, they open them up real big and push the air down so that they can keep themselves up in the air. So here's an owl, and we're going to watch the difference between an owl flight and other bird flight. And what you're doing is you're listening, okay? You ever heard an owl fly? I've seen an owl fly, but I've never heard one. They're very quiet. Let me make sure we have good volume. Commercials.
Club 26 is powered by Lenovo's AI-driven digital workplace solutions with Intel Inside.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
No, it's Kansas City.
Not a sound.
No, nothing at all. Absolutely fine. Amazing.
but one of the microphones picked up. The decibel waveforms show the sound being generated by the birds in flight. Each spike is an individual wing beat. But with the barn owl, there's almost nothing.
Yeah.
Even our array of super-sensitive microphones fail to pick up any sound of Kenza in flight.
And here's the owl doing exactly the same. Nothing at all. I'll play it again. There's not a sound here. That is really impressive, isn't it? It shows that they really are silent flyers.
So how does a barn owl fly so silently? When air moves, it generates sound. The more movement, the greater the sound. The pigeon's large body and small wings mean it can't stay airborne without a lot of fast flapping. This creates turbulence in the feathers below. The peregrine has much larger wings, which it uses to build up speed and chase down its prey.
That's the fastest bird on the planet, that one.
The barn owl is far more graceful. Kenza's large wings and small body make it easier for her to generate lift. So just one gentle wing beat sees her gliding effortlessly through the air, creating little more than a whisper in the feathers below.
Pretty wild, right? I was standing in my yard once, and come on, stop. And one of them went over my head. And the only reason I noticed it is the shadow passed by, and I looked up, and it was a barred owl, which are around here all the time. And it just went right over me and made no sound. It's wild. It's kind of creepy because they're big and they make no sound. So here are some different orders of birds. We have lots of orders within our class Aves, right? And so the ones that you're probably most familiar with seeing around here, we have a lot of these guys here, these passerines or passiforms. These are the ones that perch on twigs. If you've seen them wrap their little feet around the twigs and just perch on them, they're probably going to fall into that category. But you see other ones that you would be familiar with, like parrots or falcons, or let me see, pigeons and doves, things like that are going to fall into different classes. So there are lots of classes to make up our 10,000 species within the order Aves. So circle each letter that is true about birds. Can birds lay eggs? Yes, that's true. Most birds can fly. Is that true? Most birds can eat, or birds can eat only one kind of food. Is that true? Kind of depends on the bird, but usually not always true. All right, so circle the letter of each way feathers help birds. Do they help them fly? Do they keep them warm? And do they provide food for them? No, right. So what's lift? Is it the shape, the circle of the letter that's correct? Is it the shape of the bird's wing? Is it the force that pushes upward? Or is it the speed that the air moves? What do you think, Everly? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, technically it's a force that's pulling upward, not pushing upward, but they put pushing here. But yes, it is a force of moving upward. And what's true about air pressure? Air is all around. Is that true? Yes. Air moves under a bird's wings, but not over. Is that true? No, it's going to move over and under. Does air push on everything on Earth? Yes, it does. Right. There's air pushing on everything. So here's your example of how air flows over a bird wing. That is also, by the way, the shape of many airplane wings. We designed airplane wings to act like bird wings because it works, right? Birds didn't copy us, we copied them. So which air is moving faster? The air over the top is moving faster. It's the same volume of air, but it has to go farther, right? And then the air at the bottom has more pressure because it's moving more slowly as it crosses over that wing. All right. So now we get to talk about mammals. Here we are in our most complex order that we've been going through all these different orders of animals. Now we are at the most complex order, and this is where we fall, right? We are mammals. So what are our defining characteristics of mammals? What do you think of? What is it? Live birth. Yep. Vertebrates. Yeah. What do you think? Something else for mammals. Come on. Something else. So typically, we have specialized traits unlike any other group. And there are 5,400 mammalian species, ranging in size from the little 1 to 2 inch bumblebee bat to a 108-foot blue whale. These are all mammals. We have 29 orders, 153 families, and 1,200 genera or genus, right? And we are endothermic, you said vertebrate, yep, with a number of unique characteristics. And here are some. Most mammals are going to have hair or fur. Can you think of a mammal that doesn't have any hair or fur? Not really. Pretty much all of us have hair or fur. Even the hairless versions of certain pets we've made tend to have some degree of hair, even if it's just a little. We tend to have sweat or sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands produce oil. So not all mammals are going to sweat, but we're going to have in general sebaceous glands that are going to secrete oil. We have specialized glands to produce milk, and we call these mammary glands. That's where the word mammal is coming from, right? Mammal, mammary, mammogram, right? They all come from the same root. So we have 3 middle ear bones. What were those middle ear bones when we were in embryo? Do you remember? We talked about it last week. You had pharyngeal slits that evolve in fish, they evolve into gills, and in mammals, they evolve into your middle ear bones, your 3 middle ear bones, hammer, anvil, stirrup, right? We have a neocortex, which is the region in the brain that's specialized in seeing and in hearing. Seeing and hearing are more defined and more involved with mammals than with other types of organisms. And we have specialized teeth, which we would call heterodontia, different teeth. Herbivores, omnivores, and carnivores are going to have different types of teeth based on their diet, right? We talked about like how you would have fangs if you're a carnivore, maybe, and then you would have like big flat molars if you're an herbivore. And if you're an omnivore like us, you've got a combination, right? We've got incisors for biting, canines for tearing, and then molars for grinding. 4-chambered hearts. We have moved on now to 4-chambered hearts. So here are our orders. We have 2 subclasses first. We have Prototheria and Theriformis. Our Prototheria are what we refer to as monotremes, and these are egg-laying mammals. Mammals that lay eggs. So you said give live birth, which is true of most all mammals on the planet, but there are tiny few exceptions. We have egg-laying, and they have 2 orders. They've got Tachyglossa, which is the echidna. There's 1 family and 4 species of echidna on the entire planet. And then we have Platypoda, which is the platypus. 1 family, 1 species. Platypus lays eggs, right? Now, here's the thing about things like platypus and echidna. They still produce milk for their young, but they don't produce milk in teats like other animals do. They just kind of ooze it out of the skin on their abdomen, and their babies just kind of lick it off their skin. They don't latch onto like a nipple or a teat like you do most other mammals do, right? It's interesting. They just kind of lick it off their bellies, and they lay eggs. And then Theriformis, these are our live-bearing mammals, and we have 2 main categories, subcategories here of Theriformis. We have Metatheria, which are our marsupials, And there are 330 species of those in 7 orders. And then Eutheria, which are placentals, 5,000 species in 20 orders. Which are you, a marsupial or a placental? What do you think? A placental, right. What's an example of a marsupial? Kangaroo. Yeah, so these are animals that tend to have pouches. But what makes them different is that their offspring are born very underdeveloped. Very, very underdeveloped. Way more underdeveloped. Like obviously human babies are born underdeveloped, right? You can't, a human baby isn't born and can't survive on its own, right? Once it's born, it can't survive on its own. It needs to be taken care of. But marsupial babies are born so immature and so tiny that they generally crawl into a pouch, latch onto a teat that they don't ever take it out of their mouth. They are latched onto it for months and they continue to develop until they can come out of the pouch because then they can fend for themselves a little bit. And so lots of different classes here. You've got carnivores, you've got, guys that you're familiar with, like rodents here, primates here, all sorts of critters, right? So now I'm going to show you what is one of my favorite videos to show students because it is the weirdest thing ever. We have one marsupial in North America. Do you know what it is? It's the Virginia opossum. I'm wearing them on my ears today. This is the only native marsupial that is currently living in North America. And this girl is going to talk about the Virginia opossum. And she says some weird things, but this is true facts about Virginia opossums. But what's so funny is she says it with the straightest face and like her presentation is fabulous. Okay. All right. So here's the Virginia opossum. She starts with Dr. Gray, which is funny too.
Marsupial, I'm sure many of you would list representative species such as the wombat, the koala, or the kangaroo. However, if I were to ask you to list a representative species from the Americas, you might not be so quick to reply. Opossums are the only marsupials found in the Americas, and their reproductive strategies are much more complex than simply carrying their young in a pouch. The only species of opossum in North America is Didelphis virginiatus, the Virginia opossum. The order name Didelphimorphia can be broken down to mean 2 wounds, and this hints at the unique reproductive strategies of the opossum. Male opossums have a bifurcated or forked penis. This led people in the past to believe that the males would impregnate the females through the nose and she would then sneeze them out into her pouch. If an egg is fertilized, it will move from the oviducts to the uterus. Then, the embryo will be nourished by uterine milk by means of diffusion. The trophoblastic cell layer prevents cells of the mother's immune system from reaching the embryo and seeing it as a foreign enemy. This is why marsupials have a relatively short gestation period in comparison to placental mammals. If the embryo were to remain, the mother's body would terminate the pregnancy. Due to this, an opossum's gestation period is usually only 12.5 days, with them being roughly the size of a honeybee at birth. They'll only have a torso, a head, and 2 front legs. So the opossum then has to climb from the mother's vaginal canal to the pouch. Blind and only having front legs to use, the 5 to 24 embryos rely on negative geotropism, which is a desire to go against gravity's pull. They also rely on the mother's salivary scent trail that she's laid from her vaginal canal to her pouch. Once at the pouch, the highly underdeveloped opossum will attach to one of 13 teats. The number of teats limits the number of opossums that will be able to survive. Attached to a teat, the opossum will begin to develop rapidly and stay connected to the mother for 8 to 9 weeks. The baby opossum will continue to nurse until around 4 months, when it will begin to fend for itself and eventually leave the mother. Although many people overlook our resident opossum, these complex marsupials represent an important step in the evolution of mammals. So maybe next time when you're driving late at night, please don't swerve to hit these fuzzy critters. For me.
The wink at the end does it for me. So, did you get that? They have 2 uteruses Wild, right? The whole thing is wild. It's a wild marsupial reproduction is so vastly different than placental reproduction. It's pretty cool. All right, so in each pair, circle the term that describes the mammal. So, um, let's see. What we're looking for is they are an endotherm. Are they going to be vertebrates or invertebrates? We all said it before. They're going to be vertebrates. How many chambers in a mammal heart? Four. And do they have feathers or do they have fur or hair? Fur or hair, right? Okay, and how are mammals divided into groups? They are divided by the way their young develop. So they're either going to be monotremes, marsupials, placentals, right? That's pretty much how we do it. And the placenta passes oxygen and food to a developing embryo. This is true in placental mammals. Obviously, our marsupials lack a placenta. So because they don't have a placenta, their little babies just sort of soak up this nutritive liquid they call uterine milk. It's not like true milk that is produced in mammary glands, but they kind of soak it up through diffusion, and then the mama's body basically kicks them out before they're fully developed because it's starting to have an immune response to the baby. And then the little baby has to climb all the way into a pouch, hook onto a teat, and hang out there for a number of weeks until it is more developed. And of course, like with the possums, like she said, they're born with how many legs? Only the two front legs, right? They don't even have hind legs when they're born. Okay, this is another one of Okay, this is another one of my favorite videos. And this video is just for the sake of what is that? First off, that's a koala. Don't they look cute? They're so cute, right? They're cuddly. You go, oh, I want to be friends with this koala. Do you think they're actually nice critters? Or do you think they're kind of mean critters? What do you think? Mean. They're actually really mean. And they're really cute. And actually, nearly all of them have specific sexually transmitted diseases. All of them, like the entire population of koalas has chlamydia. They do. It's wild. It's pretty wild. So this is one of my favorite internet videos just because this little guy looks so sadly human as he's being abused by a much larger male koala. And he cries while the one in the tree growls. And it's kind of wild. It's wild. Australia is a crazy place. Yeah. Wow, Dad. He's not happy. But this guy's not happy either. Listen to him. Hear him growling?
The tree. You can come to our tree. Well, there's plenty of trees.
You're a meanie. Well, he tries again. Look at it biting and scratching. Little arms out like a toddler, right? It's tired now. I love that video because it's so crazy. It's absolutely nuts. All right. So here is a look at some of our strangest looking mammals because we talked about how there are many different kinds. We have marsupials, we have monotremes, And some of these guys you might have seen before, but a lot of them you probably never even heard of. And there's some pretty wild little critters in here.
Join and get your first month free. Deal
Yeah,
ends
yeah.
March 13th.
Trust is earned through
Ah,
consistent.
two commercials. We're special.
That's why Algolia is one of the 100 awards. Reckon
20 strangest looking mammals. The mammal class is full of strange creatures, animals you may or may not have ever seen before. Here are some that just got out of this world. Number 20, the long and a echidna. If it looks like a mix of a hedgehog, platypus, and anteater, then what you're staring at is probably an echidna. There are now 3 living species of echidnas, though there used to be about 5, with all 3 now considered critically endangered. And although they are mammals, they are one of those mammals that lay eggs, just to settle some confusion. Not to be mixed up with the short-beaked echidna, long-beaked echidnas live in dens and are characterized not only by their longer snouts, but also their shorter spines and fur. Number 19, dugong. Though they're related, the dugong is not a manatee. Instead, they're much lesser than any mammal and are distinct with their wide, round mouths. These are medium-sized beasts that reside in warm coastal waters, such as those found near Australia, South Asia, East Africa, and even the northern Pacific, with an extinct species once living in the Mediterranean. The name dugong is Tagalog, deriving from the Malay phrase for lady of the sea, and is also known as Solomon's cow. Number 18, the Maine wolf. You see this creature and probably think it's a fox for the way its coloring is. And then you see its size and think, well, maybe it's actually a wolf. Honestly, it's neither. It's the only species in its golden dog genus and are found in the grasslands of Paraguay, Bolivia, Brazil, and Argentina. Adults weigh up to 23 kilograms with heights of up to 90 centimeters. At this height, they are the tallest in the family of canids, which include other animals such as hens, foxes, jackals, dingoes, and irregular domestic dogs. Number 17, the Irrawaddy dolphin. This sleepy looking fellow is an Irrawaddy dolphin, and yes, we know it's not the bottlenose one you are used to seeing. Instead, these are the ones found in parts of Southeast Asia and the Bay of Bengal. They do look a bit like belugas, but the Irrawaddy is a creature all unto its own. Their blowholes are closer to their left side and towards the front. An adult Irrawaddy can weigh up to 200 kilograms, and the largest size ever recorded was a male found in Thailand that measured 2.75 meters. What's the most interesting about the Irrawaddy is probably their relationship to humans, as they are known by fishers to drive fish into their nets when tapping the wooden key against the boats. Number 16, the lesser mouse deer. Also known as the Malay shepherd train, this tiny mammal often confuses those who come across it. Is it a mouse or is it a deer? Actually, the lesser mouse deer is much more closely related to pigs, despite their appearance and size, but they do belong in a family of their own. When it comes to the Asian species of mouse deer, adults will grow up to 17 pounds, while the African species will usually be anywhere between 15 all the way up to 35 pounds.
Root beer alcohol has the taste that takes you back.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name, even if you're not ready to launch your business. With Wix, you can grab yours now and then get to work. Here's why it matters. Back in 2019,
They can be found in regions such as West and Central Africa, as well as South and Southeast Asia. Number 15, nutria. These huge rodents are also called river bats, or the koiku, depending on where you're from. Adults can weigh up to 14 pounds, so anyone who has a deep phobia when it comes to rodents should probably steer clear of this one. The nutria are semi-aquatic rodents that can be found in North and South America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. However, they are only native to South America. They are known for looking like huge beavers or muskrats, characterized mostly by their orange teeth. The largest adults weigh around 16 to 17 kilograms and measure 45 centimeters long and heavy. Number 14, star-nosed mole. Though most people do know what a star-nosed mole looks like, it's still strange to see one up close. Though they seem terrifying, these species of moles are actually quite small. Their strange noses are what are known as Eimer's organs and is the star-nosed mole's touch organ that consists of over 25,000 sensory receptors. What's cooler is that their fur is water repellent and their tails serve as fat storage for breeding season. These wetland inhabiting mammals are usually found in parts of the northeast United States and eastern Canada. Number 13, elephant shrew. The elephant shrew are also insectivorous animals.
That thing's cute.
Named such. They come in sizes that range from 10 all the way to 30 centimeters and are native to Portland and Africa. Unlike a lot of mammals, but quite similarly to humans, the female elephant shrew will exhibit signs of going through a menstrual cycle. It's a period that actually lasts a few days. And just because they're small, don't expect to be able to catch one so easily. The elephant shrew is known to be one of the fastest small mammals in the world. Number 12, Indian giant squirrel. It's like the regular squirrel's longer-tailed imaginary cousin. As you can infer from their name, this type of tree squirrel is native to India. Their
It's cute. Look at his ears.
shy, and with predators like large birds and leopards going after them, it's easy to understand. Like a lot of squirrels, the Indian giant squirrel is a big source of dispersing seeds, which makes it one of the most significant parts of the ecosystem. Number 11, Polycis. Known as one of the most impressive insects in the world, the Polycis cat is a small wild cat that closely resembles what most of us see as domestic cats. And that's probably because Polycis cat and a regular domestic cat are similar in size, though their legs are a little shorter than other cats and a little stouter with their thick and heavy fur. They can be found in the grasslands and montane steppes in Central Asia and are named after German naturalist Peter Simon Pallas. Number 10, Sunda flying lemur. The Sunda flying lemur can be found in regions such as Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. They measure up to 42 centimeters or 17 inches and can be found gliding through forested areas as they are really adept climbers. However, once a Sunda flying lemur falls to the ground, it's pretty much helpless as its physique is not built for webbing. They mostly eat leaves and lick tree bark in order to drink some water and get their nutrients. Number 9, face bat. This bat is hairy, though that's not the physical feature it's best known for. You need to be sure which bats are male, since the wrinkles are much more evident on the faces of males in comparison to female wrinkled-faced bats. But don't be alarmed at the sight of one. They may look more Dracula than other bats, but they are frugivorous animals, which means they only eat fruit. Number 8 is rock hyrax. The weirdest fact about a rock hyrax is that it's less closely related to rodents and more closely related to elephants. These traditional mammals can be found in parts of the world and Africa and are known in South Africa as dassies. These are the types of animals that build their home, which are usually rocks with holes dug into rocks. Number 7, the silky anteater. Inhabiting parts of South and Central America are these puffy, fluffy animals, also known as pygmy anteaters. The silky anteaters are much more golden and fuzzy than the more common anteater family members, with shorter snouts.
Oh, look at them.
Seen on this kind of They're the smallest of the anteaters, measuring up to 9.4 inches long and weighing as light as common sense. Number 6, platypus. This is one creature whose appearance has confused humans for a long, long time. The duck-billed platypus is so named for its nose and mouth that closely resembles that of a bird instead of a mammal. It looks as if a beaver and a duck had mated. In fact, when a preserved platypus was introduced to Western scientists, people thought it was a fake, sewn together from parts of other animals. They even lay eggs, unlike most mammals, and are endemic to eastern Australia. Number 5, Angora rabbit. They are the oldest type of domestic rabbits and were popular pets for royalty in Europe. The Angora rabbit was bred to have silky wool, which can grow ridiculously long and make the Angora rabbit appear like a huge cotton ball. Despite being so fluffy, they are known not to cause allergies to humans, which makes them other animals. Number 4, long-eared Trigona. These nocturnal rodents are adored for their small stature and huge ears. They also have long hind legs, as a movement is jumping. Found in the Palearctic zone, there isn't much known about the long Trigona. They measure about 70 millimeters long, or about 150 millimeters in pounds. But don't be too excited about how adorable the long-eared Trigona can see. They have thin, white incisors in their mouth, which they use to chew from various insects and capture their prey by leaping high into the air. Number 3, lowland streaked tenrec. The lowland streaked tenrec are not only known for their odd appearance, but are also famous for the way they produce the sound, which is known as stridulation, wherein they rub parts of their bodies together to make a sound. And it's something more commonly done by snakes and other insects. These mammals are found solely on the island of Madagascar and are adding Number 2, these two-nosed bat. Bats are already a strange thing, both at a distance and
Whoa.
together. Eastern two-nose bat is native to northeastern Australia and are exceptionally well known for their unique physical appearance. First, it's their tails that make them stand out from other bats along with their brown, lines, and yellow spots all over their fur. The scales that adorn the pangolin are called hairpin scales, as they're made of the same.
Those are cool.
And they're the only mammals to have such a thing on their bodies. Their scales are rather soft when they're first allowed. Penguins are insectivorous, eating up to 200 vegetables on a daily basis. The nocturnal mammal resides in hollow trees, though other species like to live underground. You can find a penguin in parts of South and Southeast Asia and Africa.
Cute little guys, right? Fun stuff. All right, y'all go ahead and grab your lab. And we'll get everybody to circle up here.